Zach Deaton's kid, the little 4-year-old girl, is rocking around in her singlet all day. And Zach said, "Hey, do you have any little girls on your team that want to get a match?" And I had a little girl named Hadley who just turned 5, and I personally refereed their match. It was like one of those. It was the most adorable thing you've ever seen, though, with the whole crowd around, and you had 2 little 5-year-olds just like looked like 2 kids in a clothes dryer. We raised both of their hands. The crowd erupted.
To the North Florida Wrestling Show, we have the Border Wars review, the Battle for the Hammer. Didn't get to attend, but I heard so many great things about it. We have Chris Elam, the director of the tournament, as well as Jason Westlager from Grappling House here to talk a little bit about it, talk some of the great matches that went down and what some plans for the future of both the area and the tournament is. So, Chris, awesome tournament from what I hear. Everybody said that they got some great matches in. Pretty quick day, relatively, it seemed like. What was it like from the director and a coach's point of view?
Yeah, it went great. So it's our second year. So we learned some mistakes from last year and then adjusted fire a little bit on this one. And we got one more match in as we had an 8th team this year. But I think you never start a tournament on time. So, it's kind of like backwards planning from that. So we shot for like 8:30. I think we started at 8:45. And then I think we wrapped up right before 4 o'clock for wrestling. And then all the stuff you got to do afterwards from hosting a tournament. I think we were out of there at 4:30, so relatively short day, like you said, and everyone had great matches. We got the referee situation figured out after everyone was booked for the Panhandle duels or championships and all the other tournaments going on too. So it went as well as it could have, and we didn't have to throw any parents out, which is always good, or coaches, and we had no serious injuries, so it's definitely a win.
How did the top 4 of the teams shake out?
So it came down to if Jason would have won his last match there, we would have had a 3-way tie again, just like we did last year. So our breaker criteria would have been total cumulative points. And I didn't get the chance to tally it all up, so hypothetically, it would take Gulf Coast to show us the bracket that they have with all the team points, and what may have happened. But we pulled out a close one against Jason's team, and then Jason barely lost 1 point to Gulf Coast. So it would have been definitely interesting to see maybe they would have went from third to first, and or taking our spot or whatnot. It's awesome.
Well, speaking of Jason, what did you think of the tournament?
Yeah, it was run extremely well. You guys did a good job, Chris and Niceville crew. As you can tell, I don't really have a voice from all the yelling, but yeah, it went very smooth. Things were pretty on time and all that. And it was nice to get out of there kind of early. For us, it was, a little over a 3-hour drive. So getting out of there at 4 o'clock was nice. As far as like the wrestling, man, every single time I actually sit and watch some of these kids, it's remarkable to me. Like Niceville's bottom half of the lineup is insane. Gulf Coast was that way as well. We kind of matched up awkwardly against them both in that we have a lot of like inexperienced kids down low, but then all of our real big hammers, big names, the kids that have, done stuff on the state and national level come in at around the like 80-pound mark, which is about the halfway of the way this weight classes for this dual format were set up. And so we were down 36-0 to Niceville and down 41-0 to Gulf Coast. Ended up 41-40 with Gulf Coast, and it was 45-39 with Niceville, where we just kind of roared back. But it made for some really, really fun stuff. The way it all played out, they roared off to a big lead, and I think maybe some of the coaches and parents, or some of the kids and parents, thought like, oh, we're going to win this one pretty easily, and it's just the parody of it and being able to come back and make it close, and the kids all doing their chants on the sides, and it was really good. The dual format is really, really good for team bonding and letting the kids kind of root together and all that, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Janet showed me the match between Steven and Kendall, and like y'all's kids throughout the entire thing was Kendall, Kendall. I love that. That was cool. Either what's going on? Either we couldn't get a Steven chant going over there on the side or something.
I took a step back. I only coached Absidy and Landon in his match, and personally thank Jason for letting Absidy on the team. She had a great time with the other girls. I even asked her today, if it made it more fun. She said definitely, and I posted a little story on Facebook yesterday, like 11-second clip of in between matches. When another team was still going at it, so we were kind of like taking an interim break. The girls tied together like their shirts and like pajamas and made a jump rope, and they were jump roping. And I posted a question on the post too. Is it just in girls' DNA that they love jump roping because they're just tied things together and improv a jump rope line. And she said one of the girls got up to 44. I think Absidy, her timing's a little off. She got like 5 and then fell. So
Well, I've
it's
noticed
funny.
that. I've noticed that like these girls inject like that stuff at tournaments. Like you'll see all around where like track wrestling will go down at a girls tournament and they start doing like a dance competition or like line
Mhm.
dancing or like something to like entertain themselves. So that was really fun to see. Apsa did really good. That was really cool. I know you were super happy to watch her go out there and work. After kind of I had the same thing with Steven, not to get detract from that, but it's so cool, like watching kind of like you finally let it go and you're like, fine, whatever. And then all of a sudden they start going more into it, like more than ever. That was really cool to see. Cause like I saw Steven looked like he was having a blast, dude. Like he was smiling from like it seemed every single match. He got taken down, not a big deal. Like it seemed like a lot of the teams were competitive, but like everybody was having like a fun time, a very good community building time.
Yeah, I was walking around, and each team kind of had their own thing. Like Jason had the chanting going on one for the match, and then on his other team, the coach had them like run through and like slap everyone's hand before the match, and then the Niceville Black team, they were like making a teepee and running through running through before they checked in and stuff. And I don't really think it even came down to the coaches. I think it's the kids just joking around, having a good time, experiencing something different rather than the IPT format, and come up with their own ways to cheer their teammates on.
So Panda
That's
was
so.
doing. They were
Go
putting
ahead.
their hands on top of whoever was about to go out. They would all put their hands on top of that kid's head and then like slowly chant that kid's name, like, and then slowly speed up. It was like Timmy, 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 and then he would sprint out. They were really loving it, but that's a comment. My wife does not come from wrestling. She was there selling gear for the Juggernaut people, and she made the comment that like, why don't we do this every time, like the dual format? She said like we got out pretty early and the kids all really seemed to love it. And I said, well, this is trying to explain to her that IBT is normal way, and then duels kind of are more of a high school thing. And but I think unanimously our team really really liked the duels. I had a lot of kids that are on the newer side and have done like one or two IBTs and just got to experience their first duel, and multiple came up to me and said like, how many more of these are there this year? We love this. And so
Dude, so
Mm.
I was having this exact same conversation at Panhandle Championships with Jeremiah LaFontaine of Mosley and then John Wainwright over in Swanee. And we were just talking about IBTs versus dual tournaments in general. And as a newer coach this year, as a wrestler, I think I always preferred IBTs because it's like, oh, my chance to run through a bracket and see how far I can go, who I can go against. But just as a coach trying to build a team and build that team camaraderie, being able to like sit down and assess your guys one after another in a logical order, and like it's for me as a note taker too, like I can sit there and just
yeah,
I don't have to worry about running halfway across the gym. It's easy to make each person's match. The other parents can get super involved in the other kids matches as well, because like it builds like as a dual meet, like you said, you were down 30 points and then you see yourself start roaring back. And the most important point is that you can get those kids that probably would go 0-2 at a IBT tournament. If we can't get a war zone or something up, if they go to an IBT, they go 0-2, they're done. And you as a coach might have missed that first match because it happened so quick. So I've noticed so many more coaches say like, I would rather do dual tournaments. Like maybe I'll schedule one IBT a year, but other than that, I want to get those 7 matches. Because like Chris, Merrick is definitely coming along. He's made a lot of progress, but like at an IBT, if he went in and wrestled somebody that was just 2 years older than him or had more experience, like he might only get 2 matches. But as it was, he got like 3, 4, 5 at the duels in one single day. That's something that might have taken
Yep.
him 3 or 4 weeks to get to in IBT tournaments. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that personally as like someone who's directing the tournament, and Jason's done a bunch with the Warzone or whatnot, is it makes it super easy to, at least the way we did it, is we know track wrestling is not a part of it, so there's no like, oh well, we might have to wait 2 hours because of track wrestling. We do everything completely analog, write it down on a bracket, and then as soon as everyone's done, we can just move on to the next thing. So we kind of really cut out technology or a need for that at all, which could I hear even at the high school, one of our presidents of our board, when he watches his son in his tournament, he told me one time he didn't get done till 10 o'clock at night because of track wrestling going down, and you can completely nick that in the butt with just going straight analog. And I don't, you don't really want to do that with an IBT like we did way back in Jason's day, or you got to be in that room doing pairing or whatnot. Uh, yeah, I'm picking on you. Um,
My dad told
but
me
yeah,
to
you
do
don't want to
that.
do that because that's a pain in the butt. I'm 32. I'm 32. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
going down there into a pairing room and doing that is terrible. And with a duel, you already do the weigh-ins in the beginning and you have it. So, if you want to move matches around, like we moved Jason and Gulf Coast to a different mat and a different referee for the very last one, to kind of make sure they're kind of the center of the room. They have the larger mat and they have the best referee in there, in case there's some close calls or whatnot too. So there's a lot of flexibility when you take technology out of it and you're running as and you stay flexible as a director.
Yeah, I wish we could get somewhere like because I love that. Like I said, when you ran this last year, and I saw, I'm like, oh, you guys have 8 teams and like a whole little thing doing duels, and they're close enough. I know Jason's over there in Tallahassee area, but Tallahassee kind of
Mm.
has like a pretty decent middle school wrestling scene, somewhat.
Mm.
Like over here, it's not almost non-existent. Like even if it was something as simple
Yep.
as getting kids a duel a week, like going over to like another club and getting a duel in, or traveling because that was one of the big things in Bay County over Panama City growing up. They don't have it anymore, but they had middle school wrestling, and it was very simplistic. It was just like 8 teams. You would wrestle 2 duels a week, and then after like 4 or 5 weeks, you have an IBT end of the year tournament. And but just having that that experience, that team building stuff, you have these kids going off to these other teams in high school, already having that experience, already having that camaraderie kind of built up, already knowing what it's like to be on a team. And I would love to see something around like here where it's like, oh hey, let's go catch Niceville Wrestling Academy and Pace Wrestling Academy wrestling, at the Niceville, location, or at Pace, or at some kind of like, a neutral site or something.
Yeah, we you guys at Niceville High School invited us earlier in this month, and I think you guys are doing another duel later this month as well. So we can get together and talk. Maybe even doing like we did an NWA showcase last year where we kind of wrestled our newer kids against our newer kids. We're seeing if there's someone local in the area. I know the Fort Walton Beach Bombers have a club too. Maybe Pace. I don't know if that's a little too far away, but um, just kind of how like the geography is for here too. If we only have one club now that Cressy doesn't have a club like nearby. It kind of can make it hard. But like in
What
Tallahassee,
was
where Jason's at, you got a huge populated area, so it's probably a lot easier for you guys to do something like that.
well, there's not really that many opportunities for the youth in town. You've got now T Town, which is Lincoln's high school team, started T Town, which is a youth club, and then there's rumblings about a club that used to be Tallahassee Battle restarting to give us some of those opportunities. But this whole dual format thing, somebody had an idea. I forget who it was. Maybe Zach Deaton, about doing like a K-8 dual series type thing where we just kind of go to different locations every X amount of weeks and 4 teams wrestle a quad or something like that. And I really like that thought. And I think that a lot of us should try to get together and make some version of that happen, and then kind of have Chris's event every year kind of be like the championships of that series or something along those lines, because I think kids really like the duels. As a coach, it's easy to miss matches in an IBT setting, especially like a 5 or 6 mat tournament. Like mat one, I got a kid up, and then I have one up on 6 and one up on 4. I have to choose which of the 3 I get to see, and that's always hard. And to just sit there and watch 14 kids straight through and get my full attention on that kid, and like you said, and now I'm seeing like tendencies that kids have that need to be corrected, and that um, I would really love the idea of doing some sort of dual series where you know y'all are 3 hours from us, but there has to be a neutral ground somewhere, like an hour and a half drive for each of us, that we can find a little spot to run that. If it's a 4 month season, one a month, one time a month, 4 of us are getting together and just running back duels. Like for our team specifically, we lost to Niceville, we lost to Gulf Coast. Both were close duels. I would love to run those back at some point, not necessarily because I want to win, which obviously everybody wants to win, but more so because they were really good matches for my kids.
Mhm.
Some kids that needed to get humbled a little bit and needed to see that there are better kids out there got those experiences. And on the flip side, some of my hammers had really close matches that they need to have. You, you're not gonna improve if you're tech falling everybody every weekend. You need to go out and find the tough ones, and those two duels provided those for us. And so even though we lost, I think our kids improved overall this weekend, and I'd love to do it more.
I think that would make it easier to get parents to go too, because it's a lot easier to, just like we kind of allude to a lot when we talk about the Warzone format, being able to get kids in and out, like in a pretty, the parents and the kids in and out in a timely manner. Like with that dual meet, it's like, hey, can you guys travel for an hour to go watch a 30-minute duel, a 40-minute duel, maybe 2 of them, and then like you get to watch your grandkid wrestle, or you get to watch your grandkids team wrestle and get involved as well. So I think it could help as far as like getting maybe numbers there as well. But everyone knows I've been talking about trying to start some kind of like wrestling league, pro or otherwise, so I could figure that out. But that would be a really cool thing. Like whether it's like a 4-month one right after the season or during the summer of like, hey, this is the dual series. Maybe that can be like next fall's, next summer, spring or summer's,
Yeah.
main little event that we end up doing. Like be like, all right, let's have duels and see how many duels you can get.
Right.
Yeah, and we talked about trying to grow the freestyle program too. The dual tournament can provide that other format instead of, I think in the past we've tried to do a couple IBTs with freestyle, but maybe we just try to do one dual tournament with freestyle, and as soon as that that tournament happens, you can like kind of put the like, all right, hey, that was the conclusion of the freestyle, which might be, 3 4 months. We're a lot different here in the South than up north in the Northeast. But that's something easy too that you could kind of try to do, and then you can get two big dual tournaments a year, one in that summertime, and then one in the winter like we have been.
Let me ask, why were we doing? Why did we go K through 8? What's the possibility of breaking that up into like just the K through 5, or to in 6 through 8 in the future? Has there been enough numbers?
Probably numbers.
So yeah, so the big thing that I was thinking about that too, and I think I might have talked to Jason or talked to somebody about it too. In our specific venue that we have this year, we could totally do that. You have that one large room where you could do your K through 5, or maybe you have more teams that only can make a K through 5 team, and then you only have a couple. Like Coastline had a really big middle school presence, it seemed like, and then I know Jason does as well. For us, and I suppose that's the biggest thing. As you kind of already hinted at, Jordan, is we don't have middle school wrestling, so that's what we're trying to really grow for us. So there is no reason why we can't do it. A 6 through 8 and a K through 5. Um, it's definitely a possibility. I think we might lose some teams that might not be able to make a 6 through 8 team, but maybe you have assassins who doesn't have really a lot of little kids. Maybe they have more in middle school, so that's better for them. They'll only have a 6 through 8 team, and we can pull like another team that has only a K through 5 team. So there's no reason why we can't, and that's just another way to continue growing this event that we do.
Yeah, I would just I guess some points on that is separating it in theory would sound good. The only issue is that there's a lot of weights in the junior high ranks. We probably
Hmm.
wouldn't have filled half of them, just personally. And the reasoning for that is there are two middle schools here in town um, that offer wrestling. One of them was active this week, and so the kids that were on that team were at their middle school event or high school event or whatever. Florida High's sixth graders can wrestle high school, so all of those kids were over at the with you over at the Panhandle duels and trying to get experience in those. And so I think it would be difficult to create like a full 6 through 8 team. Even if I had the full lineup, I'm going to be missing a lot of them for events with their actual team. So I like the K through 8 format. The only downside of it, and it can never be stopped, is that sometimes you'll have a third grade 70 pounder wrestling a seventh grade 70 pounder. But I don't.
Yeah,
That's tough to stop.
yeah. That's gonna be Christopher if he ever gets back in seventh grade, 70 pounds.
Yeah.
He's gonna wrestle a 6-year-old.
I think, by the way, I think the seeds are in it that your little Chris might be thinking about it, because Janet was saying that he had came up and I guess like had saw Bram wrestle, and he's like, if Coach Ross would just like pay me like $40 to wrestle him for an hour every day, he'd probably get pretty good. That should be what you do. You should be like talk to Ross and be like, hey, Chris said that he'll tutor him and then just get him back into wrestling little bit by little bit. So I've been
Yeah,
doing
he
with
bragged.
Steven. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he bragged him. He said $40 for 2 practices a month. And I was like, Christopher, that's 4 hours of your time.
Hey, that's a good.
You want to
Hey,
make some money? Just put your shoes on and maybe skip soccer practice that day or schedule outside and try to slowly bribe him in there.
yeah,
Um, but something I was thinking about too, and it just came to my mind as Jason was talking, is maybe that summertime dual tournament could make things interesting. You can do like a K through 6 and then a 7 through 12. Now that the high schoolers are, they're out of school or whatnot, and then you can kind of make your own club, uh, 7 through 12 team or 8 through 12, whatever you want to do, and really see those higher weights. And then you're getting a mix of high schools in the area, so hopefully you get the best of the best. If you got 4 or 5 high schools in the area and they battle it out in the room and kind of make that all-star team for your area. That'd be really cool to do to see evolve too.
yeah. Well, I mean, they do the K through 8 tournaments as well. Like the Deep South. It would be, if we do the
Hmm.
Punishers again, and we're looking to like, take people, and we have, trying to get interest. Like, we could do a dual tournament that determines who's on the team. Get the teams people used to like being in a dual tournament, and then you have like, okay, you went 8-0 in your weight class, then you're going to be on the team, or if you're like 7-1 or however it was. But I would love that. Um, Also, how did the addition with Coastline do? Like, how did they add a little bit extra to the lineup this year, and what other teams we looking to grab next year?
Yeah, so Coastline did really good. Like I said, they had a really big middle school presence, is what I saw. A lot of kids that I know, if we've seen them wrestle each other before. So it was great having them, and then all the coaches, Kyle and Zach, they were super cool, and I had no issues with them. They had some great recommendations as well. But some other teams, off the top of my head, I still extend an olive branch to Kyle and the Assassins if he wants to come down. I know Alpha Elite is another Southern Alabama team that pops in my mind, and then uh, Ryan still wanted to reach out to the Valdosta team in Georgia, see if we can get him too. And then we have the Fort Walton Beach Bombers that are right next door. So trying to build a relationship with them and see if we can get them coming in as well. So there's like four in the off the top of my head. Maybe there's a team in Panama City too that I'm forgetting, but there's plenty to make it grow from 8 to 12, 14. And we have the venue to do it as long as nothing crazy happens. Um, you know, we kind of are the neutral site, if you will, just because Gulf Coast is all the way in Spanish Fort, Alabama. So they're 5 or 6 hours from Jason. So they might not really see them unless Jason is going out west for a tournament. But we want to bring him back. We want to come back on top. We won last year, they won this year, and Grappling House has been right behind us the whole time, and well trained. They weren't there this time either. They have a solid program too, so there's definitely a lot of good competition there.
From a perspective of like growing a region, it's exactly what needs to happen. That we have, I would say probably 10 years ago or 5 years ago, even there weren't 7 solid teams that you can name off the top of your head from a youth perspective that could all push one another. And now that that's starting to build, I would say it's definitely built. It's just the kids continuing to grow through and stuff. But that is how a region grows, in my opinion, is it starts at the youth. And I think that a lot of coaches in this area have done a really good job of putting their best foot forward, kind of combining and making sure that we all get these opportunities for the kids to continue to get better. It's gotten to a point where at the beginning when we started Grappling House, if you wanted a good competition, you had to go over to Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, whatever. And it's really nice that we can run over to Panama City or Gulf Breeze or Niceville, Fort Walton area and get the same quality as we would traveling 7 hours the other way. It's definitely growing, and I love it.
I got here in 2019, 2020, and as you know, Jordan, we had to travel all the way up to like northern Alabama when we first got here. There was no really local tournament per se, or like a series as we're doing now with adding the IOF, adding the Warzone that the area has done the last couple of years. We were doing the AYWO circuit. I know at least our team was. And then 2 years ago, we really started kind of being able to do our own thing in the Panhandle. And I know the parents really appreciate not driving 4 hours all the way up there. Not only is it time, but then you got to spend money on hotels, gas, and it adds up. It makes the sport expensive. So being able to do these local ones is really good. And the long term goal is really to start seeing the effects at the high school level. Hopefully, we get more kids in the area who are placing at regionals and moving on to state, and hopefully placing at state and ultimately becoming state champions. And you can look back 6 years and where they started. They started at Grappling House. They started at NWA. They started at Well Trained. That's what we really want to do is continue growing the sport and put Florida on the map, or at least the Panhandle.
Well, talking about growing the Panhandle and growing the sport, I know you two are some of the more active guys. What's in the future for the Panhandle for wrestling, at least from y'all's end?
I'll say
Uh,
from us, the next thing we got is we got Connor Beebe coming up here again, April 5th, 6th, and 7th. He's going to put on an awesome clinic for us. And then once that's, probably a couple months or, right after that, we'll try to see who else we're going to bring. We want to keep bringing clinicians here. That way we don't have to, when kids want to go to camps, they don't got to spend $2, $3, $4,000 on plane tickets and lodging and all that. We want to, our goal is to bring those guys here or gals too, and make it affordable, like we said.
we're kind of full into IOF for the next month and a half now. We'll head over. We have some kids over in Jacksonville today, even ones that wrestled yesterday that headed over there, and then we have two or three more IOFs before the state championships on the 18th of February, and then we will kind of probably do folk style for another couple weeks through the end of the high school season to make sure that those kids that want the extra work in that high school run can have it. As soon as high school state is over, we're going to transition fully into freestyle. Last year, we dabbled in it and did it for about a month. Kids really liked it, and so we're going to transition fully and try to get some of our high schoolers on the Fargo team. I think that's qualify at Spartan again this year, wherever that is going to be. But that's kind of our plan. I've always loved the multiple styles and always looked at freestyle as like a fun way to kind of take a break from the grind of folk style. And it's taken a good little while to not change, but like create that mindset in some of my kids and parents of like, hey, that could be really fun for the kids. And so I think this first year we're going to do that and really go hard on trying to find tournaments and try to get some kids placed on some national teams and, go into that in the spring. And then not sure what's going to go on in the summer or fall yet. Haven't thought that far ahead, but I'm excited for it.
Well, I appreciate you guys being on. We'll definitely get you on to talk about the Connor camp as it comes in, freestyle as it gets closer.
I got one more thing to end this with.
Good.
I don't know if Chris even saw this, but it was really cool. So Zach Deaton's kid, a little 4-year-old girl, I forget her name, was rocking around in her singlet all day. And Zach said, "Hey, do you have any little girls on your team that want to get a match?" And I had a little girl named Hadley who just turned 5, and I personally refereed their match. It was like one of those. It was the most adorable thing you've ever seen, though, with the whole crowd around, and you had 2 little 5-year-olds just like looked like 2 kids in a clothes dryer. We raised both of their hands. The crowd erupted. Like, it was so much fun. And then Gulf Coast saw that and said, "Do you have anybody around this kid size?" This little dude named PJ was maybe just turned 4, had his singlet on, and I said, "My son is just turned 4." And so I ran over to the side and grabbed him. We threw a singlet on him and let them roll a match, and it was just cool. It was really fun to see the little kids wanting to be like the bigger kids and get out there and scrap it up. And events like that provided that. We had a little bit of 15 minutes in between matches, and we were able to give some 4-year-olds a fun time. So it was cool.